Charisma, obviously a big game, your first game with at least 20 points since November, your first game with more than 3 makes since, and in a couple games at least. So how good does it feel just to kind of have an explosion offensively like you did today to help your team end a 3-game losing streak?
Yeah, I think it feels better that we finally won, honestly. But it does feel really nice to like finally feel like I'm being myself again. But I do want to give a lot of credit to like my teammates and people who have been texting me and just continuing to encourage me. And specifically Japristine, like I was on the phone with her for 45 minutes yesterday, and she was just kind of like reminding me of who I was and when she played against me, and just saying how much she believes in me, and that like meant the world to me because like I respect her so much. So shout out to all of those people who have just been helping me so much.
And then back-to-back 20-point games for Londynn. Just being one of her mentors on the team, what was it like to see her sort of continue to break out like she has recently this season?
Yeah, it's super cool to see her, and obviously everyone doesn't see all of the work that she puts in, but like she's working hard every single day in practice, after practice, or before practice, and it's amazing to see her work showing out on the court, and I'm just super proud of her, and I know that she's going to do really big things here.
After with the 3-game losing streak and everything, what was the process going into this game? And were you guys talking among yourselves? Were there any specific initiatives that came out of that, or how did you guys handle that?
I think that we knew, like, okay, these last couple of games were really hard because they were like 1-possession games that we were losing by, and in the film room, we didn't even watch film the first day. We were just like, we're going to focus on us, and it's everyone's responsibility to watch the film on their own and figure out what we need to do to stop them. But I think we were really just focused on how can we be better as a team, as teammates, how can you get somebody else a good shot, and how can you give to your team. So I think that was just really the main focus for us players.
Yeah, to kind of go off what Riss said, it all came down to us choosing it. Like, we had to make a decision, and we chose to do this. We chose to come together. We chose to put the team first and do whatever was necessary for us to come out and get the win. And obviously it sucks losing back-to-back, but when you figure out what you really need to do and then you implement it, it feels good.
Is it the sort of thing that can turn a team around? I mean, you hit that little skid and you kind of realize, okay, maybe there are things we need to improve. Is that, I don't want to say it's necessary, but is it often good to kind of go through that stretch and have to figure things out?
I think it can be. I think the reality is that it really goes back to your attitude and your response. And if it elicits changes in behavior, if it it changes the mindset of a team, if it brings people together. But I think whenever you hit really big adversity, it can take you either way. And you have to choose the next right step. It doesn't happen to you, it doesn't happen for you. You have to choose it and make it happen. So I think it's possible, but you have to earn it.
I think he was just saying you're now 15th on the all-time UCLA list. I mean, talk about that, talk about what this journey's been like.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, that's really cool. I'm not really focused on that as much. I just want to win, honestly. But like you said, like my journey here has been so fun, and like I've just had such great people around me, such great teammates, and I wouldn't be 15 on the list without those teammates. So I've really just enjoyed my time here.
I think the reality for this game was we got our confidence shaken. And, you know, we're 3 possessions away from being 21-3. Like, that's really what it comes down to. You're 3 possessions away. And we let leads deep in the fourth quarter go. And so this was about earning a mindset. And, you know, our director of mental conditioning, Colin, was talking to us about the biggest distance is from our heads to our hearts. And we have to fight for that distance. And I didn't think actually the first half defensively, we did a good enough job with that. But this is about earning a confidence, a mindset, a ferociousness, a passion that we know the right things to say now. I think we know we're talented. I think in our heads we know we can do it. But in our hearts, we're sort of wondering, why did we let that go? What happened there? Are we as good as we thought we were? And especially with a young team. And we have 9 players that are new this year that have not played together. 9. And so this is a brand new experience for this group. And so that's really what I'm focused on is I'm focused in on that distance from our heads to our hearts.
That said, when you made 3 subs right away, was that kind of sending a message?
Well, I think that especially in the second half, I just said, if you want to stay on the floor, keep getting stops. If you make a defensive intensity or you're not talking, you're coming out. And I said, it will mess with our rhythm, but it's that important to me. It's that important to me that you understand that our defense, our intensity, are having each other's back. So that's bottom line is, you play defense, you do execute the game plan, you get a chance to stay out there. You don't, you're coming out.
When you get to this point of a season, how well do players listen compared to maybe earlier in the season, like we talked about, before you go through those tough times?
Well, I'll honestly be honest with you, it hasn't been that different with this group because they really want to win, and they're a very coachable group. In other years, maybe it wasn't always that way, but that's been one of the hardest things. I mean, honestly, I haven't slept. And it's because I want to have these kids back because I love them. I love them and I believe in them. And so what is it that I can do and change as their leader, as their teacher? But I think that honestly, this group wants to win. They don't always know what they look like or what they need to change, or sometimes they need to understand there's a ramp up in intensity that needs to happen. I'm really hard on this one because I think she could be just a difference maker. I don't want her to see herself as just a scorer. She's been phenomenal in that. But you know what she's like on her on-ball defense? Do you know what she's like on long rebounds? Do you know what she's like when she gets in screening actions? Like, I want her to take pride in that. I want her to be an elite basketball player, not just an elite scorer. And so my responsibility is to challenge her because I love her and I believe in her that much.
And Londynn, how is that from a player's standpoint?
A pain in the butt.
Being the receptacle of those expectations and those desires for you to be great.
You always want a coach that pushes you to your limits, and it's very much appreciated because you don't get better unless that happens. But yeah, I like it. I love it. I tell her to challenge me at it all the time. She'll say slick things, and I'm like, okay, So it's things like that that keep me going, things like that that get me excited and bring that dog out of me. So it's very much appreciated.
I would imagine things like, well, kids in the Inland Empire, they're better than that, right?
That's something I like about not only Londynn, but her entire family, is they have a lot of pride in that. And, I got to give credit to another former Bruin from the Inland Empire in Monique Billings. And she was is a friend of their families, and she was another one who had great pride in being from the Inland Empire. And obviously we've got great players on our men's program and those kinds of things, but I love that about her, is that she always represents not only her family, not only UCLA, but where she comes from.
I'll let somebody else ask some questions.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm always fascinated in the psychology of everything. So when you lose a game, it can kind of turn into more and more. And what was that? What happened with you guys to reset from Friday to today to kind of flip the script a little bit?
It has to hurt in order to really learn from it and grow from it. So these couple losses have really stung from the whole team, not just individually. And so I think, like I said, making a choice and coming together and really figuring it out what it is that needs to be fixed and then fixing it.
And can you maybe name a couple things what those were?
Defense. Defense does it all for us. So, just getting passion plays and things like that, it leads to scoring. So you depend on your defense, and it gets everything else going for you.
You had, Charisma was recovering for her injury. You really stepped up. Was that intentional, or did that just kind of organically happen?
It's kind of, it's the work that gets put in that no one really sees. So it's just taking advantage of every opportunity when you get it.
And maybe, Coach, can you speak about Londynn a little bit, and then also Charisma's resilience? Maybe you can discuss those things, because I personally have seen Londynn really step up, and then Charisma just has more fight than I've seen in a long time.
Well, and it's interesting, you know, you've seen that before. I think sometimes in that senior year, like the burden that you're carrying, it can be really heavy. And so you have a couple of games and you think, oh my gosh, and it's coming to, you know, all of a sudden she's playing tight. And you've seen that ferociousness before from her. And so, you know, I think I wanted to see that come back to her. And I think it's sort of like, why am I not shooting well? Or, you know, it's just all that stuff that can come in and make the game really heavy. And just really trying to get her to focus on that, man, you're healthy. That wasn't here a year ago. We get a chance to respond. We have really good talent. We've shown we can do it. You know, just really trying to remember the play and just the play and the gratitude. And I think that we know that intensity's in her. So I'm really proud of Charisma's response. And it's not been easy. And I mean, her and I and Coach Shannon had a long talk yesterday, and just really trying to figure out what are our next right steps together and how do we help each other. And you know, when you get in those sort of tough slumps, you got to really claw your way back, but you can't crawl your way back in a vacuum. You got to do it with people and connected to people, and I think that takes a lot of courage, and that's what Charisma showed. You know, Londyn's just been a huge spark for us. And what I'm most impressed with in the last few weeks is her consistency. You know, she's our most efficient, her and Emily are our most efficient three-point shooters. You got our tallest player and our shortest player, finding ways to really stretch the floor for us. But, you know, it's all the other areas. You know, she's a prolific scorer, but, you know, her working on her footwork after practice. You know, that's one of those things that, and you've heard me say this before, Sue, that the work done in the dark always gets revealed in the light. And she's learned how to work. And I think what you're seeing is a byproduct of all that work in the dark. Mm-hmm.
And then I guess just one more thing. I know you take it one day at a time, but now how are we preparing for the Oregon games?
Well, we haven't yet, but you know, I think really the biggest thing is, you know, can we be 1-0 in our preparation tomorrow? Like, can we win that day? And I think one of the things that in this, like in the end of the game, like the doubt that comes in, I think the way you earn confidence back to become a winner is that you really train to control your thoughts and be present in your own moment. And so that's our job as coaches, to make sure that we're really prepared. And we have a lot, post defense will be huge. I mean, Beers and you know, is just killing it for Oregon State. But I think we can learn some really valuable lessons from our game up there. But it's our job as coaches to be prepared tactically. But right now, I just want us to be, our players, to focus on being right emotionally, mentally, and then their heart level things. And I want them to feed their heads. And you know, what voice wins in your head? It's the one you feed the most. And so that's really all I want them focused on, is feeding the right voices in their head.
Anything else?
Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.